Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another episode of Letter of Law Interviews. My name is Sarthak Bharadwaj, and in today's episode, I'm absolutely thrilled, delighted, and extremely honored to be in conversation with Judge Shazadi Halima. Ma'am is presently a judicial officer in the Delhi Judicial Services. Ma'am graduated from Jamia back in 2019. And in that very year, in her very first attempt, ma'am qualified for the Rajasthan Judicial Services. And shortly thereafter, again, in her very first attempt, ma'am also qualified the Delhi Judicial Services. And today, ma'am has very kindly agreed to come and share her experiences and insights about her preparation journey and life as a judge with us. So first of all, ma'am, thank you so much for taking time out and being here with me today.
Thank you so much for wonderful introduction, and thank you for inviting me and share.
It's really a great honor to have you. Ma'am, the way I like to start my podcasts is by asking my guests to introduce themselves a little. Of course, the introduction I gave of you covers only your professional background, but I'm sure there's so much more to you that you'd like to tell to our viewers. So over to you, ma'am. Whatever you feel our viewers should know about you.
Definitely, as you have already told my name, which in itself is pretty precious. So I identify myself as a dreamer. So I dream, I set a goal, achieve it, enjoy for a bit, and then I decide to make another goal. And this wonderful quote I would like to share, and it goes like this: then the tip of one mountain is the bottom of another. So exactly in this manner, when I started my preparation, I cleared Rajasthan Judiciary and I enjoyed, and then went on to clear DJS. And at this stage, when I am holding a court, I feel like if there's anything I can share and it can benefit, then I would like to do that, and that's why I have also started sharing my journey with the aspirants.
No, thank you so much for putting that so beautifully. And I must mention to all the viewers, ma'am runs an Instagram page as well as a YouTube channel, both of which I link in the description section below. So be sure to check those out. So ma'am, starting from the very beginning, at what point in your law school journey did you decide to study for the judicial services exams? Was that always part of the plan?
When I took admission in my law college, initially I was not very clear about judiciary. I wanted to go for IAS, UPSC instead. But by the third year, it was very clear. First of all, I experimented. I also interned in Patiala House Court, Honorable High Court of Delhi. And then I also used to do running internship in a corporate firm. So by the third year, I was pretty much clear that judiciary is the thing that I want to go, and it is the service where I want to serve. So yeah, third year was the year.
So that's great. So you started your preparation in a full-fledged manner from your third year onwards, or was that part of the plan, but you only started preparing at a later point?
So I knew that irrespective of the career that you choose, once you are in law college, law is the subjects of law are going to help you in all kinds of stream. Whether you are a litigating lawyer, or you are in corporate, or you are a judicial officer, or you choose law in the law optional in IAS officer as a IAS officer, it's going to help you. So I started studying the law in that manner. I used to go through the bare acts, I used to go through the subject, and used to make small notes then and there. Like for example, in my college, when I was in classes, I used to take those classes seriously. I knew that if I start early, my journey can be short.
Which is why perhaps you were successful in clearing two of the toughest judicial exams in your very first attempt. So we'll talk more about that journey, ma'am. Were you also involved in some coaching institute, or was this journey entirely based on your self-preparation?
As I had already shared with you, that I started preparing along with the subjects that were going on in my college, like IPC, CRPC, contract. I used to study it along with my college notes and college classes. However, in my final year, I left the office where I used to do the running internship and full-fledged went into the preparation. However, I did take admission in a coaching institute after my college was over in July, as more like it was more like an insurance.
Yeah.
Because my father, he told me that if you do this, because everybody else is doing it, you should also do it. Let me clarify. At that stage, I had cleared Rajasthan pre, and my mains was pending, and the classes were not started.
Wow.
So I couldn't attend more than 20 classes because my mains was also due for Delhi. So Delhi means, Rajasthan means, they all overlapped with the coaching, so I couldn't continue with it more than like maybe 20 classes. Yeah.
Right. So your journey, for all practical purposes, was based on self-preparation, which is a great motivator. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that, ma'am. These days, we are seeing that coaching institutes have very high fees, and not everyone can afford that. But also, there's a misconception, perhaps wrongly or rightly, in people's minds that without joining a coaching institute, you perhaps cannot clear the examination. So, for students who are in this journey preparing on their own without any coaching institute, what's your advice to them? What kind of a strategy should they adopt in their preparation journey?
Yeah, when we talk about the coaching, I would say it's a very personal decision.
Yeah.
But along with saying that this is a personal choice, I would again say that whenever you are thinking about going to coaching, first of all, be clear in your mind what the exam is asking for. See the syllabus, go through the previous year question paper, and if you think that you can't do it yourself, try to do it. Give yourself 6 months, 2 months. If you're in college, give yourself a year. If you're in fourth year and you have decided, give your fourth year in preparing the subjects, whichever is going on in your classes. And if your college is over, now you're deciding, give yourself some time, trust yourself, read the bare acts, try to interpret it, give yourself time. Trusting yourself is very important. When you don't have enough confidence and you think that still you need a mentor and you can't find the mentor around you, you can definitely go for coaching. Use it in the right way. Even if you're going to coaching, you will have to do the hard work yourself. Maybe they can give you some catalyst in a equation, I mean in a reaction, but the work is yours. You will have to go given the hours needed. So if people are thinking that it's like they will spoon fed you, it's not like that. It doesn't work like that.
Right. No, that's absolutely true. And thank you for stating that in clear terms, ma'am. Ma'am, another question that I'm really interested in knowing, like you said that you started your preparation while you were still in law school. But as all of us can understand, the preparation for judiciary can be extremely vast and demanding, whereas the law school syllabus is often very limited. So how did you cover those gaps? How did you reach a level which is beyond what is taught in law schools? And how did you emerge at a position where you could successfully clear 2 state exams for judiciary?
Yeah, I understood the question. In this question, I would like to give answer in a very concise manner that in your college, you're studying for those 5 or 10 questions that are going to be asked.
Absolutely.
However, you know the subject. You know the question is related to the murder, right? And you are going to pick bare act and one reference book for that exam. Now, when I come to judiciary preparation, there is also going to be an exam and certain questions are going to be asked there as well. What are those questions? Have you researched about that? Why don't you research? Why the aspirants think there is going to be too much of work to be put in for exam? Pick the syllabus, pick previous year question paper. Just like your exam, there are going to be some questions. Maybe it will be on a harder side, but if you give enough time and make your schedule in such a manner, give smart strategy to it, you can do it. So picking the syllabus is important. We just go on the subject, see the questions once, try those questions, try to answer, try to write the questions being asked in the previous years. Practice, give yourself time, make 2 hours separate for preparation to judiciary. I think definitely you can do it.
No,
Judiciary
certainly.
themselves.
Absolutely. And that's very well put, especially for someone who's starting out in their, let's say, 3rd or 4th year, putting in a few hours every day will surely put them in a good position to qualify for the exam. But ma'am, a couple of more interesting things. What was your schedule like during your preparation days? That's a question that I got on Instagram often, because I keep receiving a lot of requests to feature someone from the judicial services. So now that you are here, I feel like I should ask you, during your preparation journey, what kind of a schedule did you follow? Of course, it's going to be personal for each person, but broadly, what did your day look like as an aspirant?
It comes down to very simple things: eating good food, sleeping on time, exercising in whatever form you like. If you like to run, go for a run. It energizes you, helps you focus more on your studies. If you like to study in the morning, do it. Wake up at 5 if you can do it easily. If you can't, study till 2 or study till 12. Whatever suit a person's personal lifestyle. However, I would say that you should have a regular timetable. If you're eating at 9, eat around 9 every day. Don't make drastic changes to your schedule.
Yeah.
Why? Also, at the same time, don't skip your classes in college. It's time to have some memories also for college. Don't do like you are totally into judiciary, not going to classes. And at the same time, give time to your preparation, because if you are preparing now, you're going to have fun later. What's better? Spending 5 years in college, having totally fun, not preparing at all, and then giving 3 years to preparation. What would you rather have? Becoming judge at 23 or 22?
Right, absolutely.
Wonderful friends, judges. You're going to meet judges, seniors, have retreat programs.
Yeah.
So think about that and make schedule accordingly.
That's a really enticing proposition, and I'm certain it's going to be useful to everyone who's interested. Ma'am, you said a very interesting thing. You said that don't skip your classes in college while you're preparing for judiciary. But how did you personally manage the workload of law school? Because we know it can be vigorous sometimes with project assignments or some competition or the other, and then also the judicial preparations, which of course takes a lot of time. So how did you balance your college with preparation?
College, see, the things which are going to be taught in classes are important. For
Yeah.
example, in my first year of college, when I was in contract class, my sir he was a wonderful teacher, he was a wonderful professor. He taught us that there are thousands of laws in India. So in law college, you're not going to learn all the laws. You're going to learn how to read law. You will get to read them all by yourself. You're only learning how to read it. So classes are important. You are going to learn something important that is going to help in your judiciary journey, and experiences and learning from wonderful professors are also important. At the same time, you will find time, I'll say. Make schedule accordingly, and classes are not overwhelming, I would say. College time is fun, classes are fun, and I don't think it take up a lot of time. You get free, and then there are time for your internships also. If you can find some time, for example, even while I was going for my running internship, I used to take 1 or 2 hours to study for my judiciary. So even if you're going for internship, ask for some time. I don't think your lawyer, whosoever you are doing the internship, they will hesitate in giving you time to study for yourself. Learn to interpret the law. It's going to help. Even if after we are judges now and we get a lot of opportunity to interpret the law, when will you get to learn it?
Yeah.
These law colleges are the time. Develop the skill of interpreting the law. Clear your basics.
Indeed. Now, ma'am, like you said, there are so many laws, and similarly, the syllabus for judiciary is also quite vast. And because you were preparing on your own, you had to rely on your own notes and material that you collated for yourself. But as we know, there can be hundreds of books on one topic or a subject. So how did you structure a material? What kind of books and sources did you refer to? And what's that entire process like?
I think there is no clarity when it comes to how to approach judiciary preparation. There are 5 basic things. I think I have also mentioned it somewhere. These are whenever you're going for preparation, pick the syllabus and keep previous year question paper along with it to see how much portion of questions are coming from which subject. Pick the BR, which is more important. What happens, people pick the books, fancy books, and they don't go through the BRX. So pick the BR Act first, go through the BR Act, and then pick only one reference book. Don't rush towards whatever fanciest notes are coming from different new coachings opening up. Although there might be something important in them as well, but more or less everything is going to be similar in all kinds of books. And avoid the commentary, because even when I referred Avtar Singh for Indian Contract Act, it's a pretty huge book. But I didn't read it from first page to the last. Because I was constantly going through the syllabus and previous year question papers, it was easy for me to understand what to read and what not. And commentary is something we don't have to read. Only stick to the topics which are going to be asked and read the book. And then I again emphasize, only pick one book for all the judicial aspirant to whosoever are watching this. Pick one book and then study from there. It's better to read one book 10 times than 10 books once.
Oh, that's very well said, ma'am. So, ma'am, now coming to another important part, what was your preliminary strategy for pre-paper strategy? Like, did you practice a lot of MCQ papers every day, or did you do it only when the notification was out? What did your pre-test strategy look like?
Before the notification was out, I was studying generally for all the subjects. Kind of whenever I was getting time, I was making notes. Actually, I make very small notes, so most of the time I write either on the Barrett or on the book, wherever the topic is. Small, in my small manner, I write notes of whatever is important. So when the notification was out, I practiced a lot. I used to revise and then I practiced, because this is the only manner you can answer the questions accurately. And it also prepares you when you are answering questions in the examination hall. You know your work, you get a speed, because otherwise you're not prepared how to think at what stage. And the other thing for preliminary examination is to go through the index of a Barrett time and again, so that you know ki after section 25 and 28 and between 25 and 20, these are the sections. So if this section is talking about murder and this section is talking about theft, so what sections are between these? So you can also start to analyze and understand the questions that can be made out of the Barrett. So keep revising. And I think while preliminary examination date was approaching, I used to revise each Barrett every day.
Wow.
And I think everyone can do that. We all have that power. Our brain is wonderful. It works in mysterious ways. You just have to do magic.
No, absolutely. That's very beautifully put, ma'am. And so if we come to the mains examination, ma'am, what was your answer writing strategy like? Because everyone has, of course, their own ways of writing an answer. What kind of a methodology did you adopt for yourself?
For answer writing, what you have to do is start with the Barrett and support it with the landmark judgments. And if you have any idea of any recent development in that area, for example, if you're talking about the statement of accused under 313 and there is some recent judgment in which the Supreme Court has highlighted certain portion, you can refer to that. And in judiciary, this is the most wonderful thing is that even if they're asking about your opinion, if you are supporting it with the recent judgment and the section from the Barrett, even if the analogy that you have come to is not supported by the recent judgment, there will be no problem. You should just support it with the logic. For example, like right now we are judges and we are giving judgments each day. We acquit the person or we convict the person. How we convict and how we acquit, both can be correct. Some person, if we give this we give this file to somebody else, they might acquit the person, we are convicting it. Right? It's just our analogy. We have just interpreted the law in certain manner. So what you have to remember while you are writing your answer is that you should support it with a section. There must be some judgments that even if you don't remember the name, you can write that in a celebrated judgment, this was held. And after that, if you know any recent development, you can write and then make your own analogy and write the answer.
Right. Yeah, I'm just going to come to that, but a few preliminary questions about that, ma'am. So, because there can be multiple kinds of questions in a mains question paper. There will be some theoretical questions. There will be some practical fact-based questions, especially in Delhi Judiciary. So if there's a problem-based question, how should one approach that? Do you start by giving a brief gist of the facts and then the law issues and your own reasoning, or is there no set pattern and students are free to develop methods that work best for them?
I think although there may be multiple methods a person can use, however, the easiest thing which I used was that Delhi questions are beautifully written. In like 20 lines, there will be a question, and if you have not practiced, you are going to be scared. So that's why I emphasize, go and see the previous question paper and practice. So there are going to be a lot of facts inside, and it might be referred to three different laws: contract, partnership, or sale of goods, for example. So there is going to be intermingling of law. So be prepared for that. Practice. Try to see laws together: evidence, CPC, and IPC. Oh, I mean CRPC and IPC. And in answering that question, first of all, see what the problem is. So what I used to do, I used to write the problem that is being asked to be solved. What is the problem? So this needs to be done. So I used to write the problem, then write the facts, and then used to analyze it in my own words. Used to support it with laws and then give my final decision. So I never used to start with the final decision. I used to reach to it after seeing the evidence, whichever is given in the question. What normally happens is when we write the answer in the first line, whatever is going to be the conclusion, and then when we see the facts and the evidences, we might reach to a different conclusion. That might happen. So that's why always write the question first in your own word, whatever is the problem in the question. Then write the facts, analyze it in your own words, use the section. There are going to be whereas given in the examination hall, and I actually use them. So then write the judgments if you want to support it with something, and then write your answer. This was my strategy.
Wonderful. Also, ma'am, so I don't know a lot about the judicial service exams, but I looked at a few papers and I saw that some questions are of 30 marks, 40 marks. And in our law colleges, we are taught, of course, if you write more pages, you're going to get more marks. But I'm sure that can't be the strategy for judicial service exams, because it's such a big paper and you can't possibly finish it in the given time if you're writing 10 pages for an answer. So if it's a long question, it's a 30, 40 marks, what's the ideal length of an answer and what should be the ideal length of a short answer? In your experience, what have you learned, ma'am?
Oh, well, no, pages are not going to work here.
Right.
It's not going to work. Whatever the question is, according to it, whatever I just told you, if you can write it in single page, that's fine. You will get the marks. Pages are not going to work.
Very interesting. No, that's encouraging. So to write to the point, that's wonderful. Ma'am, another question that I want to ask, how important is it to write judgments in each answer? Because it's quite possible that people might not remember every case law on every topic. So is it good enough to substantiate your answer with just legal reasonings and no cases? Or is there going to be a loss of marks if you don't put in judgments?
It's nice if you can substantiate it with a judgment. And for that, even one judgment is sufficient. However, if the question is asking, support it with judgment, then if you support it with just one judgment, it's fine. However, if it's not written, substantiate it with judgments of recent judgment or landmark judgments, then even if you just say that in a celebrated judgment Supreme Court of India has held and not mention the name of the judgment, that's also fine. It's not going to affect your marks. So it's not your law exam. They are just seeing how wonderful judge you can be. They are going to see how you come to the conclusion and what is your analogy.
That's very interesting. I believe preparing for the judicial exams requires a lot of unlearning of what we required in.
And Delhi Judicial Service especially, and there is some reason why Delhi Judiciary is, I don't know, it has esteemed position, and there is a reason for it. Its exam is wonderful. Absolutely. I love the experience of me especially.
That's wonderful. I'm really, it's wonderful to know that someone liked the grueling experience of going through a competitive examination, but that's really good to know. Also, I'm coming to a point which I feel a lot of people might face problems with, is the translation, because many of us, if they're from English medium, might not have touch with Hindi post their 10th. If they're from Hindi medium, they might not have touch with English after a certain class. So how can people figure out the translation portion?
Yes. So law papers are important, but don't neglect language paper. Just don't neglect. It's going to affect, it might even hinder your selection. Do not neglect and read a lot. If you are weak in Hindi, read Hindi newspaper. Start reading it from today itself. what happens is the whole paragraph where they're asking you to translate it into Hindi, and you might not know the one word it's based upon. For example, you don't know the meaning of emotion, and it's based on emotion. Emotion helps us do this, emotion help us do this, emotions make a person this, and we don't know the meaning of emotion. So I think I also could have gained more marks in language paper. So I'm also advising all the students out there to start preparing and give some time to language paper as well. Because even if when you are a judge, we might have a situation where a person does not understand the language, you should be prepared for it. This is a Hindi belt, and Delhi also sits somewhere there. So you should be prepared, and you should give some time to language paper.
And your strategy of practicing for language is to read newspapers and practice translations.
Read Hindi newspaper and practice, get previous practice papers, and if you have the access to any coaching institute, previous question paper, then try to practice that, get itself checked, get those papers checked, try to write essay if you are asked a Hindi, write essay in Hindi, try to practice for that as well.
Interesting. And now we'll come to the set, I think, which everyone is interested about, and also people crave to reach that point, the interview stage. So what was your experience like, ma'am? You've faced interview at 2 boards and successfully at both of them. So first, please talk to us about your experience in Rajasthan.
The Rajasthan interview, it was pretty lengthy interview where they asked a question about personal life also, something other than law, and then they asked legal question also, they asked practical legal questions also, they gave us practical problems. The interview went on for more than 30 minutes.
Wow.
There were two honorables, and there was, I think, one professor. The experience was really wonderful. They try to trick you. They want to see how patient you are, how you handle questions. They might give expression like the answer is wrong. You just have to be confident that this is a test for your expression. My interview experience was but wonderful.
Can you share some questions if you remember? I understand it was a long time ago, but do you remember some questions?
Yes, one question I remember was with regard to, I think, section 118, who can testify from evidence. And with regard to personal questions, they asked if you're posted, you have lived in Delhi for last 5 years, and if you're posted to some place where there's no electricity and you have to serve there, will you be ready to do that?
Yeah.
So they can ask questions that you have to answer, think about after thinking a lot. So it was
Wow. That's a tough question because it seems easy, but if you think about it, can someone really live in a part where there's no electricity after living in Delhi for a long part of time? Sure, that's something that one should answer honestly. And what was your interview experience like in Delhi, ma'am? Was it as long as in Rajasthan?
Delhi experience was different. It was through VC.
Oh,
So,
due to
yes.
COVID.
Yes, even though we did go to Honorable High Court of Delhi, and the honorables were also in Delhi High Court only. However, it happened through the screen and VC. My interview was taken by only one Honorable Mr. Justice, and he asked me a question. It was more like a discussion. So he asked me a question, I answered. Then he supported with more interpretation. So it went on for, I think, a minute.
Really? That's
3-4 questions, and all questions were from one single question. So
wow.
yes,
But
it was a good experience.
but
Although I was like, how will I be able to answer through VC? Maybe there is a glitch, but it went well.
But this is quite interesting because, like you said, most of the questions in Delhi, the interview was only a minute or two long, and the questions also were from one area. Now, if a person is asked a question about an area he or she does not know, well, then they are in a fix. That's going to be a bit of a challenge.
But then again, a test for expression, they just want to see your confidence level and how you express yourself. So if you don't know the answer, say no.
Yeah.
It won't affect how they're going to mark you.
Ma'am, another question. I mean, I'm curious. When you first went for the interview, you were fresh out of law school and still fairly young. Was it at all intimidating to face honorable judges of high courts with decades of experience with them? What was that like? Did you feel scared, nervous? How did you tackle those emotions?
Definitely, you do feel. And as the day keeps approaching, the level of nervousness keep increasing. However, it all comes down to one point. You just have to accept that you are just out of college. You might
Yeah.
not know everything, even if you study throughout the day and night. You have to accept your position and accept that you can't answer all the questions they might ask. And you are not sitting there to, get your legal knowledge checked. If you don't know the answer, say no, and be humble and be comfortable. They are sitting, all the honorables, the whole board is sitting there to select the judicial officer
Mm.
and judges. They're not sitting there to throw you outside. So be confident and be comfortable.
Yeah,
That's what I
that's very well put. That's very well put. So, ma'am, you have had the experience of feeling the joy of clearing the judicial exams of not just one state, of two states. So, when you first got through Rajasthan, what was on your mind? What was that emotion like?
Yes, I was really out of world. I think the first thing was I made my parents really happy. So
Yeah.
more than myself, I was happy for my parents that I could give them joy. Sometimes making somebody else happy, that's your motive.
Mm.
So when I went to Rajasthan, especially, I have never been to Rajasthan. I had no experience of travel, and I got to travel a lot in Rajasthan because they send you in different cities and different districts for training. So I was there for 9 months, and I did get to have the exposure of the culture, the wonderful and beautiful cities of Rajasthan, Udaipur, Bharatpur, Jaipur, Jodhpur, Jaisalmer. I had
Wow.
that experience, and yes, the experience was out of the world. The seniors were so wonderful. They were so encouraging and teaching you. You got to sit on the dais of the
Mm.
different cities, Bharatpur, Udaipur, and sitting with a judge, seeing them deliver justice is something else. It's magical.
Right. Now, ma'am, once a person goes through a really grueling process of the preparation, puts in several years and months, and then is finally selected, the natural impetus would be to settle down and relax. But you did not give up there. You started preparing again for DJS. So, was it at all difficult? Was there not a thought in your mind that I've put in such a large part of my life, and now that I'm here, why should I go for another grueling process which is uncertain? What was that? What was your thinking like at that point in time?
It's just the spirit.
Yeah.
It just there's something that moved me. I did want to come to Delhi. It was my target state. Although Rajasthan gave me first opportunity to serve, but Delhi was my goal,
Yeah.
my destination I wanted to come to. And as I had written mains together, Rajasthan and Delhi together, it was in this. Rajasthan was in September and Delhi was in October, so there was not a lot of time gap. However, Delhi interview did take me 1.5 years. It happened post first wave of COVID.
Oh, that's a long period of time.
Yes, I went to Rajasthan. I started under training there. I was under training, and then Delhi interview notification came. Although I could have maybe, if they had given us interview dates earlier, we might have been in Delhi first.
Mm.
Uh, but if you set your goal and you know what you want to do, you just don't stop.
Yeah.
So as I say that I'm also a dreamer, I reach to one goal, I enjoy for a while, and then I set another goal.
Beautiful, ma'am. The thoughts you have are beautiful, and the way you articulate them is even more beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. Another thing, ma'am, what's the difference? Because I'm understanding that each state perhaps requires a different frame of mind and strategy. So, because you have successfully cleared Rajasthan and Delhi, let's stick to these two exams. In what ways do you think these two exams are different, and what kind of strategies are required to be successful in them, in both of them?
Yes, very good question, I think. The reason is because the strategy is totally different for Rajasthan and Delhi. Rajasthan is more of a theory based exam, and Delhi, I'm talking about mains and pre also, because in Delhi preliminary also a lot of practical questions are being asked. Unless you have already studied the law and you have gone through the books, it's very difficult to clear Delhi mains. Yeah, Delhi preliminary examination. For Rajasthan pre, it's basically from the BRETs. If you have read all the sections and you have gone through the index time and again, you can clear Rajasthan pre. It's more of a theory paper, If the questions are being asked in Rajasthan mains examination, it will be simple questions. Define murder, supported with landmark judgments, write about summary proceedings in CPC. In Delhi, you will have to read the books, read the landmark judgments, and not landmark judgments in one paragraph. Actual
Huh.
text. You will have to
Yeah.
download the judgments. I did go through a lot of judgments. Recent judgment also. I had the opportunity to get the recent judgment compendium from the coaching. So I read that. However, you can also access that from a live law or whatever site is available. Bar and bench are also, I think, releasing the compendium. So now a lot of things are available on a very small prices. The judicial aspirant can go through those, and they can start thinking like a judge.
Hmm.
Delhi exam is based on the thinking that are you ready to be a judge? They will like, for example, if you have cleared the Delhi pre, they will ask questions like you're a judge. You will have to answer the question like that. So that's why I say I love Delhi judiciary means examination. On the other hand, Rajasthan is theory based on theoretical. So if you have read the book properly, you will be able to answer those questions.
I see. Ma'am, another question that's been on my mind throughout my law school, I've only had the opportunity to work in courts around Delhi. And the district courts, though they have their drawbacks, but they're quite neat and clean. The infrastructure is good. But I often hear that that's often not the case in other parts of the country. So when you were in Rajasthan, ma'am, what kind of infrastructural differences did you see in courts? Because I'm sure some work is required to be done in that regard also. So did you feel there's a marked difference, or the infrastructure more or less is similar?
For example, when I was in Bharatpur, the building was comparatively new. However, there was one portion of building which was pretty old. The court could have been shifted in the new building, and I did get the opportunity to talk to the DJ, and he said that all the courts will be shifted into a new building. However, still some courts are functioning in the old building. The efforts are being done. However, there is a small lapse, but the district courts are also working to get the infrastructure. In comparison to the main district, there are outlying court in Rajasthan. For example, I was in Deeg. Deeg court is the outlying court of Bharatpur district, and the building of the court is being run in Haveli. I think it's a portion of some part which was owned by some, I think, king or uh, some person from this princely state. So the building is pretty old. Efforts are being done, but yes, there is a marked difference, and some work can be done in that part.
Right. But I'm sure that shouldn't be a prohibitive factor in anyone's mind who wants to become a judge in any state. Becoming a judicial officer, I believe, is a great service, in fact, no matter where you serve. So, ma'am, another question that I'm personally curious to know: what does a day in the life of a judge look like? What do you do from the moment of waking up till you go to sleep? What's your day like?
Uh, it's from the moment we wake up to the day we go to sleep. It's a very satisfying feeling. Finally, we
Hmm.
have achieved what we wanted to do,
Yeah.
and everything we do, we try to do in such a manner that we can put smile on the faces of people, and we can kind of do justice. We keep trying to read more. So then, whatever recent development is happening in our law in the area we are dealing in. For example, I'm dealing with the cases related to Mahila. So I'm in Mahila Court. I try to read more in the area of Prevention of Women from Domestic Violence Act, certain sections of IPC 498A, 354, 509, and I have some cases related to Negotiable Instruments Act. So I keep reading about those as well. However, I keep time. As I say, I try to keep some time away for my exercise.
Yeah.
Try to keep good. We also travel, so
No, that's wonderful. So, ma'am, I'll come to the final set of questions that I have. Like you said in the beginning of the interview, and I've been constantly thinking about that. You said you set a goal, you achieve it, and then you set another goal. So now that you're already a judicial officer, what's the next goal on your mind? What is the next thing that you want to achieve?
I think I want to write wonderful and beautifully written judgments. I
Hmm.
reading best judgments available. I want to have, although my judgments nobody can access because It's related to Mahila offences, so it's
Right.
not uploaded online. However, I do try to write good judgments. I try to read evidence law better so that I can assess the evidence available before me. I give time to exercise so that I can achieve the maximum possible health. And I want to spread more positivity and give back to the society whatever knowledge I have.
That's phenomenal. Now, ma'am, this is the last question on the show. And this is a question that I ask everyone who's been on the podcast so far. And I feel like we'll get an interesting answer out of you because I see wonderful books kept behind you. Are you into reading, ma'am? And would you like to give us some book recommendations? It could be movie recommendations, anything that you're reading, listening to, or watching that you feel might be interesting to our viewers. Non-law related also, doesn't matter.
I love to read. However, I read more fiction. I used to read non-fiction also, but recently I've been reading a lot of fiction. I have read this book and I love it. I think I might read it twice, thrice. It's name by name, A Man Called Ove.
Mm.
And I just love this book because the reason why I love this book is sometimes we misunderstand people. We don't know we don't know what they're going through. We just judge people. We should stop doing this, and maybe we should try to understand why a person do what they do.
Yeah.
And focus on our response to what they say or do to us. So that's what this book is based on, and I think everyone should read this book.
Great. And I think with this, we can come to an end of today's conversation. Thank you so very much for your time, ma'am. It was truly a great pleasure speaking with you. And I feel very inspired. And I'm sure the viewers will find great values and insights from all your answers. Thank you so much for taking the time and being here.
So much. Thank you so much for inviting me.